In this video, we're going to be talking about some of the special effects that we can do in the appearance panel that can really make our drawing come to life. So I have an appearance applied to both of these, right? It's this style that I saved in the last video. And in our appearance window, we've been working with adding multiple fills and multiple strokes and modifying their opacities and blend modes, which is pretty cool. But we're going to get into this new menu, the FX menu right here, and talk about some of the awesome things we can do. I'm going to start just by making a new rectangle. I'm going to hit D on my keyboard to make sure I'm in the default black and white default appearance. And I'm going to increase the size of my stroke. And let's go to the FX and take a look at some of these. There's a lot of different options in here. I'm only going to cover a few in this video, but I recommend that you go through all of them and just see what you can do. But let's do probably the most common one that you'll be doing, the transform command. Whenever I go down to this transform command, it's going to apply a transformation to my object that I can modify and change non-destructively and apply to multiple different vector paths. So I'm going to hit transform, and it brings up the transform effect window. Now, pretty much every single effect by default is not going to be previewable until you check this preview box. So check preview, and then we can start making our modifications. So let's say, for instance, I want to just scale this up just a little bit. Scale a little bit that way. Maybe move it horizontally. Maybe rotate it just a little bit. There's other checkboxes down here that we can play with, like reflecting it, or doing a kind of randomizing. That can be really fun. Then there's this option right here that says copies. I'm going to leave that at 0 for now and hit OK. So it looks like, well, all we did was just modify our object, right? But in reality, our vectors have not moved. Our vectors are still here. They just have an appearance applied to them, this transform appearance effect that's doing this action. Let's go ahead and click on that effect. And this time I'm going to add some copies here. Let's say we want to copy this effect 5 times. I need to click preview. And what it's saying is, here I'll take this back down to 1. What it's saying is copy what's here and then make a new copy that has this transform effect applied. And the more copies we add, the larger they're going to grow, right? Because each one is looking at the previous copy and doing this effect to it. So it's saying, okay, here's the original. Now scale it up a little bit, move it a little bit, and rotate a little bit. Let's add a second copy. Okay, so now it looked at this first copy here and copied it, made it a little bit bigger, rotated it a little bit, moved it a little bit. Let's go to 3, 4, and so on. So we still have this original vector path that we created. We can still play around with this. We can make modifications to it. At any time I can come in here and let's say I want to round these corners or something. But what's happening is it's applying this appearance effect that we've created. You can probably guess how incredibly powerful this tool is if you're a designer and you're trying to, really quickly get something off the ground and maybe you have a deadline or something. You can use these appearances that you've generated to build some really, really complex things. For instance, let's change the fill here. Right, now it's changed the fill on all of them. If I change the stroke here, it's going to change the stroke on all of them. And all that's happening, again, if I go to that preview mode, which is Command or Control Y, it's still the exact same number of vector paths. Let's apply another effect. I like this transform effect. I'm going to click off of everything and just go to Effects. Let's do a drop shadow effect now. Remember, you got to check preview. Okay, great. We can see the preview of that drop shadow. That's great. Let's go ahead and add another effect. Let's do an outer glow. Remember, you got to preview it. Let's change the order of this because I don't really want it to be applied to the drop shadow. So see, as I change the order, it's changed what how the effects are applied. So if I had it below the drop shadow, right, it's being applied to the drop shadow and making that glow. If I drag it above the drop shadow, it's being applied to my actual objects, which is what I wanted. I'm going to just modify that. Need to be previewing it. Remember, don't make it too intense. Say OK. If I ever want to remove an effect, I simply click this little trash can here. And now the effect is gone. So you can see how you can play a lot with it, moving these around. Let's add a drop shadow now, just under this. So we'll go to Stylize Drop Shadow. See how much this changes as I move the order of these around? Now it's definitely slowing down my computer, and keep that in mind. You really, use these sparingly, try and figure out a good workflow for you. But this looks really good to me. I'm loving it. Great effect. I'm going to zoom out here. And let's save our style. You can go to the Graphic Styles window, hit New, and now we've saved our style. So let's click a circle and let's apply that style to it. Now this may take a little bit, but I'm going to click that. And now it's applied that style to my circle. All of this is 100% non-destructive. We can modify it at any time and just play around with it. So try out all of these different effects and see what they do. They change based on the order. Keep that in mind, right? It really matters what order these layers are in, and just play with some of these appearances.